Welcome back to Health Daily. I'm your host, Dr. J. Today, I have Coach O with me today, and we're talking about overcoming those motivation roadblocks, the top 6 things that you can consider to overcome those roadblocks. How you doing today,
I'm
Coach
good,
O?
man. How are you?
Doing pretty good. So we're talking about motivation.
Motivation.
What do I do?
Which brings us to number 1, right?
Absolutely. The lack of time.
Lack of time, time management. And so I think it starts with looking at your schedule and setting a realistic time slot for you to exercise, for you to call it what you want, self-care, for you to have your time to take care of yourself, right? And so, and it's gonna be, it's gonna be different for everybody. Like, in my opinion, like, if you can avoid it, like, I would avoid the evening workouts for anybody 35 and up.
Okay.
Right?
And why is that?
I feel like,
a little bit.
well, because
you have some people that are probably trying to decide, is it better to work out in the morning or evening if they have the choice? And then after that, we'll focus on the people that don't have a choice. But now, if you have the choice,
if
why?
you have the choice,
Why
I
is
just
that?
feel like before, like, just getting your day started in that way is a lot better. Working out later, like, to me, I feel like it's almost like having coffee too late in the day. You know what I mean? So it starts to disrupt your sleep patterns and your ability to get to sleep a little bit faster. Like, you're wired up. You know what I mean? And so, and not only that, I mean, I think it's a little bit harder too. If you're already struggling with motivation to go and try to work out at the end of a work day or at the end of a day period where you've done a lot of things, it's gonna be a little bit harder to kind of drive with the energy. I think that's a young person's game to get in there at that 4 o'clock evening, like, workout time.
And when we say young, like what
young,
age are we
I
talking
mean,
about?
like teen to 20s.
Gotcha.
Like those, that's a young person thing. Like,
Still having a lot of energy.
Let
end of
them
the
have the packed gym and the after work time. Let them have that, man. Like, 35 and up, we get in there early, we get it done. You know what I mean?
Get it
And so
done.
it's like,
So now what about over 35? You don't have an option. You know, maybe you have you start work at 3 a.m. or something, 4 a.m., which I have a lot of clients that come see me, and then that's their schedule.
Yeah.
They have to work out in the evening and the afternoon. What do they do as far as improving their time?
just to have a plan, I think, and be as efficient as possible. Take a look at your time. Like, how much time do you need, like, on a daily basis and on a weekly basis in the gym to be able to reach your goal? And so have a plan, get in there, get out. Have also a bedtime routine. You know what I mean? To where you're able to kind of wind down. So, like, some deep breathing or some meditation, stuff that'll, like, really calm you down so that you can still sleep well in order to continue with that lifestyle. I mean, getting up super early to go to work, I mean, it's not for the faint of heart, you know?
Makes sense.
Yeah. And so, and then there's people that, you know, their life is work. And so it's like, how do you justify time to go and exercise and train? And so for some of those people, like, working out at home is a lot more convenient. Microdosing exercise in, like, smaller little bit sizes throughout your day. You know what I mean? Like, maybe you're a person that, hey, you can't dedicate a whole hour. Like, you have meetings across different countries, you know what I mean? And so it's like the time is all wonky. And so, but if you have 10 or 15 minutes here, maybe 30 minutes here, another 10 or 15 minutes, like, use that. Microdose some exercise, do some big compound movements to get circulation. And I think the focus there would just be to make sure that we are increasing your movement on a daily, weekly basis. And I think overall it will improve your performance.
No, makes sense, and I think you brought up a good point there. Is that there's some people that are working, like, consistently all the time. They have these schedules that are packed tight, and doing those microdoses help. But then also, and I've talked to people about this, especially I have a lot of clients that come to me, and they're professional financial managers, or maybe they're international managers, and so they have these tight schedules that you mentioned. But I talk to them about the importance of maybe the schedule shouldn't be so tight, you know, for longevity. Right? So, because most of these schedules come into people that are over 35 a lot of times, or at least over 30, And we're kind of specifically talking at this point too, between that 40s and 60s range, even on up to 70s, where if you have this schedule, is that best for your health?
Right.
Or is that just best for your company?
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
And
I
so,
mean,
like,
yeah.
where do you draw do you draw the
line?
boundaries? Where do you draw the lines? Because then, like, I think, like, once you get started, what you'll realize a lot of times is that implementing that time for yourself, 30, 45 minutes, hour exercise, is gonna help you be more disciplined or be more efficient with your time at work too. You know what I'm saying? It's like once you get into the habit, it's like, okay, boom, I'm working out here. And like your day right away, like you're starting off like you're more engaged earlier on in the day. You know what I'm saying? And the more that you do that, I think that over time, it's like you get more efficient with your day. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You get more efficient with your schedule. You know what I mean? Like you're thinking clearer, and so there's benefit to it. It's like you have to get started to even realize that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But it's hard. Like when you're in it, it's like everything's pulling on you in every different direction. You know what I'm saying? But let alone like family time and all that stuff. And so it's like dedicating. I feel like dedicating that time to yourself on a daily basis gives back to you. You know, it gives energy back to you. You know what I mean? It gives you focus, and you're able to accomplish a lot more in a shorter period of time. And so then you're able to draw those lines in the ground. It's like, no, I can get this stuff accomplished in this amount of time.
Right.
You know what
right.
I'm saying?
The changing your perspective on it and
Yeah,
changing
man.
your schedule based on that makes sense.
Yeah, figuring out like what's sustainable for you, like your longevity. Like you don't want to work like crazy. You don't want to build those kind of habits to where you're working long hours just to live the way that you want to live. You know?
Yeah. So staying on that routine, people get caught up in that routine, but the boredom with the physical and fitness routine, and I've heard this a few times that, Dr. J, I can't run for 5 miles or 8 miles or whatever because I'm just bored with that. Or I've been doing the same Pilates exercise for years and I just don't have any motivation, or I come to the gym, I kind of look around. How do you tackle boredom? What should people do to tackle that boredom issue?
So for me, I think the best way to, if you find yourself bored working out, I don't know that I've ever really gotten there, but I mean, one of the things that really works for me is seeking out new challenges. And so whether it's a 10K, that's where those things like come into play, because it changes how you train. It changes like the intensity of which you train with, because like you have a timeline now. Like I have to be ready for this thing. You know what I mean? And so it's a good thing to start seeking out challenges. And I think naturally you'll kind of seek the things that catch your attention, right? And so for some people, like maybe it's a big mountain hike or something like that, you know what I mean, that you want to get done, but in your current physical state, like you wouldn't be able to do it. You know what I mean? So a 10K, a marathon, a Spartan race, a high rocks, you know what I mean? Those different kinds of challenges. If maybe you want to get back, maybe you played basketball. Like I want to get back in a 40 and up basketball league, but I have to train to get in shape for that. You know what I mean? And so it changes it up. But it's something that I love, and so it's like figure out those things that you really enjoy. And when you find yourself bored with just exercise, sign up for something. You know what I mean? And start training for that. You know what I mean?
It makes a lot of sense, because I know I came to you a couple of years ago and I just told you, I said I need to do a race or something.
Yeah.
Because I think I was there. I was to the point where I was bored with my workouts. I had done a lot of different things. I've done the 10Ks, did the 5Ks. I didn't really want to do any more runs, and then we saw the high rocks, and I was like, maybe we'll try this. Granted, we only worked out 3 weeks the first time. And so that was interesting. And so we'll talk about that later. If you follow us, you'll get to see that video where we'll talk more about like our progression through the years in the high rocks training. But that makes sense. Like pick something so you can actually change your focus instead of just being bored. and then also what about kind of going into the third topic? The first two we talked about lack of time and then also boredom, but the third topic talking about more about like physical injury and pain. what do I do about that? Because people get hurt, lose motivation, and then it's like, hey, I guess I'm gonna be fat or something, and I hear that all the time. People literally tell me that, I guess I'm gonna be fat or something.
It's all about, I think, perspective when it comes to that. I've had a couple of knee injuries, and so it's like my mindset just changes. I think if you find yourself injured or in pain, I think that's motivation enough, depending on how you look at it. That's motivation enough to really go into training. You know what I mean? I think it's because you don't want to live that way. You don't. The motivation is not to be injured. The motivation is not to live in pain. And so there's training routines that you can do that's going to minimize or mitigate like any kind of like lower back pain. If you're dealing with sciatica, guess what? There's an exercise routine out there that you can look up to improve that. Like, don't just throw in the towel and like, oh, this is like, it's perspective. I think at that point, like pain and injury, the motivation would then be the pain and injury to knock it out. You know what I mean? And so, and it's just, it requires a little bit of research, but understand that you don't want to live in pain. You don't want to just live with an injury.
Especially if you don't have to, right? Yeah. And I think this is where community comes in too, because motivations could change, right? You get injured, it's harder to do things, but now, like you said, your focus of motivation should change. How do I fix this injury that I have? Whether it's my ankle, my knee, my back. How do I fix this injury so I can actually get back to what I love to do?
Get back to doing what you want.
And I think sometimes that comes with having the right community.
Yes.
Right? Because whether you're young or older, you still have to have that community that's pushing to be more active.
Yeah.
So if you don't, I think, talking to some clients that I have, I tell them to seek that community out. You don't have to necessarily get rid of the community that you have,
right?
But you can be in multiple communities. And so you can seek this new community out that's more supportive of your injury and to be more active. Yeah. And so I think that's lacking for a lot of people.
That's good. Yeah. That's good. And so it's like look around at your circles. You know what I mean? If your group of friends, family that you're around the most are sedentary, like, you're at risk of falling into that. That's not to say to get rid of your friends, those friends, right? But you can lift them up. Like, you can be the change for your circle. You know what I mean? Just by, like you said, seeking out a community that is active. And then invite one along at a time. You know what I mean? Invite them along. Like, hey, this is really good. You know what I mean? So it's like that sedentary lifestyle is a killer. And if you're doing it in a group, it's like y'all can get stuck, man. Y'all can get stuck. Let's get out. Let's go do something different today. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think seeking out different like run clubs, even like a lot of these like boutique style gyms, man, they have a strong sense of community. You know what I mean? I think, which is a great thing. It's like, because a lot of people, like when they go to the bigger global style gyms, it's hard to kind of cultivate community there, because everybody's kind of doing their own thing. It's big. Everybody's got AirPods in. It's like you don't really connect with people there. But in these smaller gym settings, it's like
you can connect better. It's
easier to connect, man.
Absolutely.
You get to know people a lot easier, and then y'all go and you sweat and you do these hard training workout sessions together, and it's addicting in a way. Like, you start building community where you get in shape. You know what I'm saying? I think it's a great thing.
Yeah. Which if you are in Dallas, then definitely check out DTX Performance. That's where Coach O coaches out of, and also Earson Lynette. And so make sure you check it out. We'll drop the link below. And then also, if you're looking for a community and you want to start with the online community, make sure you check us out at fit15.io. You can join right now. You don't have to wait. You can pull it up in another browser and go ahead and join us and join our community. And so moving forward, the lack of progress, this is a big thing, right? Where people get stuck at gyms. They're doing the same routine, because we talked about the routines, and nothing's changing, right? They're doing the same routine over and over. No weight change, no muscle change, none of the goals, and they're frustrated. What am I doing? And I had this conversation yesterday with a client. She came to me and she said, Dr. J, I've given up one bad habit a month for the last 3 months, but I still can't lose weight. What am I doing? You know, and part of it is the lack of progress. How do you improve that lack of progress? What are things people need to think about?
Yeah, lack of progress, I think, is that's a big one. Like, to me, it's like, because if you don't see progress in a thing, like you don't see the benefit in it, yeah, you're gonna stop. Especially if you're a person that doesn't enjoy exercise or training, and so I would immediately make sure that we are starting to collect data, right? Let's measure these things out, like measure improvement. Where do you want to see improvement? You know what I mean? Let's get a measurement there. Whether it's I mean, the easy one is weight, right? You step on a scale. Let's check your weight, and so then you're gonna check, calories, right? Calorie.
But you said, collecting data.
Yeah.
And let's stop there just for a second, because I think there's a bigger point to this that you were getting to.
Yeah.
Some people are looking at one data point, say weight loss.
Right.
But you're saying collecting data because you didn't mention just weight loss.
No.
Why do you think that's important to really collect more data than just weight loss?
Yeah, well, because you get eyes on a thing, and so it's like to not see progress and not know why. You know what I mean? Like then you just feel like lost. Like, well, I don't know what to do. Well, maybe you're tracking the wrong things, and so let's start tracking your workouts. Let's see like what you're actually doing in those workouts. What's your heart rate doing? How are you burning calories? What are you eating? Let's track your food. You know what I mean?
Because you could be improving.
You could be improving.
Yeah,
you could be improving and
right?
not know it, man. And so like the weight only tells you one component of this thing, right? And so it doesn't tell us what's going on underneath the surface. It doesn't give us body composition, whether you're building muscle and you're burning fat and all that. And so it's like you're getting frustrated because you don't see it yet. But it's hard when you see yourself every day, because like the changes in the beginning or for a specific amount of time could be very like minimal looking on the outside. You know what I mean? But stuff like metabolically, like you're changing on the inside. You know what I mean? And so I think being able to see that stuff is like, I'm very like data driven. You know what I mean? Like I like to see improvement in my run performance. I like to see my VO2 max improve and things like that, man. And it helps me to kind of keep going, because on the outside, if I just went by the scale and what I look like, I haven't changed much in the past 10 years, bro. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
no,
it's like,
totally
so why do I keep, and so, but like the data, man, it's like it, and that coupled with how I feel, you know what I mean? It's like if you can pay more attention to how you feel with the foods that you eat. Like I can look at what I ate because I felt great this day when I went and worked out, and I can replicate that. You know what I mean? And that's the name of the game, just kind of replicating your performance and being consistent with what you're doing. Because like when you're not tracking anything, like who knows if you may think that like, oh, I don't really eat that bad. We hear that one all the time. It's like, I don't really eat that much. I don't really eat that bad. Or really? I mean, because I've done it. Like, but before I started tracking my food, and I don't track all the time, but the first time that I did, I tracked for a couple of months. I was like, man, like I just mindlessly eat. You know what I mean? It's like,
absolutely.
but you don't think about it until you're actually tracking. It's like, because you're putting everything that you eat into this app. And so I was like, why am I just opening this refrigerator for no reason? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Why am I standing in the pantry for no reason?
For no reason. Like, why? And just constantly, because then when you have to enter it into the app, it's like you're thinking twice about these things. And so it's like, okay, I must be consuming a lot. You know what I mean? If I'm doing this all the time.
Right.
And so it just helps to increase the level of awareness. You know what I mean? It's an education. And so it teaches you basically what you think you know what I mean? And so it teaches you what you're actually doing on a daily basis.
Makes sense. So really changing your focus of how you're looking at progress. Are you looking at the right numbers? Are you just looking at one? Is your focus too narrow?
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
Yeah.
So rolling into the next one, emotional barriers. And I think this one's a huge topic for both men and women, because emotional barriers can come in different forms. It can come into relationship forms, whether it's a loved one, whether it's kids, whether it's difficulty at work, whether it's depression. Emotional barriers really can slow someone down. What are some of the tips and what are some of the tricks that people can use to get over this, to really overcome the motivation?
I think, I mean, address them. Number one, but I think it's like too many times, like emotional barriers just kind of go unchecked, right? It's not a hot topic really amongst people. You know what I mean? I think more so now, people are starting to pay more attention to like mental health and emotional well-being, and I think it's great. You know what I mean? But if you yourself like have these feelings or whatever that you're dealing with, it's like, yo, let's address it. You know what I mean? Like find a counselor to talk to about, you know. And so, but then also realize too that a lot of these emotions, like sometimes I'll say that like my exercise is like therapy for me, and it truly is. You know, it's like when I like a good cardio session, like I process my thoughts a lot better, a lot clearer during those sessions. And so just understanding the benefit that exercise could also help, you know. And so regardless of the barriers that you have, you know, I mean, I think you mentioned like relationship barriers,
Right.
and different stresses that you just have. I think once you come to the place where you realize you don't need anybody's permission to get into the best shape of your life, like you're there, like you're ready, like just, you know what I mean? Like you don't have to okay this with anybody. It's like
Right.
you are allowed to take care of you. You know what I mean? And
I think that's a huge thing.
you owe it to yourself to get into the best shape of your life and stay there.
And you're the only one really that can take care
You're
of
the
you.
only one that can
You're
do
the
it.
only one that you're the only one that feels the way you feel. You're the only one that feels bad when you feel bad.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
if
yeah.
you're hurt or sick at night, it's really you. And someone may be helping you take care of yourself, but
Yeah.
it's still you.
Yeah, like
So no, that's
yeah.
that's big. And then it makes me think about what you said earlier, as far as working out in the morning, starting your day with that training to clear your mind, to
Yeah.
help you process thoughts, to give you that boost of energy.
Yeah.
You know, that it makes sense. It ties
Yeah,
right in.
yeah, and I think also for because I mentioned, you know, 35 and up. I mean, it may be 30 and up for some, but it's like it's helpful, especially if you have a family or little kids, to like before they wake up, you know, to step away and get that time in, because like for me it's I can't do anything after like once the
Absolutely.
kids are home, man, it's like it's their time, you know what I mean? And it's like it's just taking care of them, and so it's like
You have to be up before them.
you got to
I found that out.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
like the times where if I'm not up before them, you know, sometimes on the weekend now, like
Yeah.
if we wake up at the same time, the morning's a mess, you know, or it's slow.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
either slow or it's a mess, and
Yeah.
so I find it that I have to be up before them.
before them. Yeah. And like you know, like you and your spouse, like y'all can take turns. It's like boom, go get yours, boom, go get mine, and then deal with the day. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, but you show up better. You know, you
Absolutely.
show up better for that day, man. Once you're able to get out there, take care of yourself, so that you can take care of everybody else and everything else in your life that you care about and love. So, yeah, man.
And then the last point to for tips is the lack of support. I've heard this one a lot, and sometimes it comes in the form of some people have very unsupportive environment, and then others I think lean on that as an excuse.
Yeah.
But what are tips that someone can use to actually improve that aspect so it's not a motivational barrier for them to actually achieve their goals?
Yeah. So I would say, like, if you find, I don't know, like it almost goes back to that same quote, like you don't need anyone's permission to get into the best shape of your life. But also, if you find yourself like that you don't have any support, and that you would like support, like a supportive network of people, a supportive group, like be the support for somebody else. You know what I mean? Like that, and that's kind of how you cultivate. You know what I mean? Like you see someone wanting to get into better shape, that wanting to take care of themselves, and you be supportive towards them, and it's reciprocated, and then it's like it gives back, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
and then also adding to that, get with a personal trainer.
Get with a personal trainer,
right? Because if you have a lack of support, that is your support.
Yeah.
Right. If you have these goals, you're trying to figure out how to be motivated.
Yeah.
Personal trainer is sitting there ready to be motivated. There's personal trainers all over this world right now that are sitting, waiting on you. To help you with that motivation. Right. As well as there's other, doctors and healthcare professionals.
Yeah.
Whether it be nutritionists and dietitians, like they're sitting there, they're waiting.
Yeah.
Just taking that step forward and saying, maybe I need to change how I think about support.
Yeah. And kudos to like some of my clients who already recognize that about themselves, because I was having a conversation with one of them earlier, actually, and and I just mentioned I was like, yeah, man, I was like, there are a few clients, like most of the time I tell people like, hey, this is an education. I just want to teach you the habits that you need, like get you to your goal, and like you won't need me anymore. You know what I mean? I was like, there's a few clients that I know that I'm going to be training them for the rest of their life, and that's okay. Yeah. And he was like, yeah, I'm one. But it's like having that awareness that some people just know that they need that kind of support and accountability. They put that support in place, and it works. You know what I mean? And so it's like, yeah, if you find that you need support, then just invest in yourself. I mean, that's all it is. Absolutely. It's just investing into a trainer, investing into
group classes, a community. You're right.
Yep.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
So thank you for taking us through that. The six tips for improving your motivation, overcoming those barriers, and kind of just to recap, we had lack of time.
Yeah.
So we had tips on that. We had boredom, which is a big one, right? Physical pain, trying to switch your focus, and then lack of progress, and emotional barriers, and the last one was lack of support. And so if you stuck with us to the end, that means that you like the content. Make sure you drop a like, share with somebody that you know that can use this information. Make sure you join our community. The link is down below. Thank you for joining us today for your Health Daily. This is Coach O. I'm Dr. J. We'll see you next time.